Talk about a tightrope job on the sideline. If he's ever going to pick a spot to get a nice return, it would be here.
Low kick.
But he's got to call fair catch. And he dropped it. Wait a minute. Oklahoma's got it, I think. Oh, you've got to be kidding me. That'll seal the deal. Yeah, they do.
That's their MO this year.
Well, there's the feeling on the Texas side. Jubilation on the Sooner side. Oklahoma wins it.
Oh, yeah, it feels good. You know, Oklahoma doesn't beat Texas every year, so when it happens, feel good about it, OU fans. It doesn't matter how you won the ball game, you won the game. That's all that counts, as Bob Stoops might say, in the end. Yes, Oklahoma 28, Texas 20, in a Texas-Oklahoma game unlike any other, and a fourth quarter that was wild and woolly. And for the third straight game, Oklahoma, it comes down to the fourth quarter when it really didn't have to be, but you get the W, you remain undefeated at 5-0, have that much needed bye week coming up, and then of course you host Iowa State on October the 16th. And for Texas, rare territory for Mac Brown, back-to-back losses, and if they lose to Nebraska in 2 weeks, it'll only mark the second time in the Mac Brown era that they would have lost 3 consecutive games. So we'll talk more about that in a second. A record crowd at the Cotton Bowl, 96,009 fans, and they were treated to Red River clash, like I said, unlike any other. They got their money's worth. And before I dig into this game, I have to do this, ladies and gentlemen. We're waiting to do it. It feels good to do that to Bevo. And you're wondering, why would an Oklahoma fan like myself have one of these? Well, a good friend of mine made this for me not too long ago, and it is actually designed, you've seen it before, it is actually designed to hang upside down. Yes, it doesn't hang this way, hangs like that. So, feels good to bash Bevo. All right, my thoughts on the game. Oklahoma, they're proof that the way you start a game is almost as important as how you finish it. In Oklahoma, the first 2 drives, touchdowns, I thought they did a brilliant job. Kevin Wilson did a great job in mixing the play calls up. They had Texas on their heels the first 2 drives. Of course, the DeMarco Murray run to give Oklahoma a 7-0 lead 5 minutes into the game. And then the terrific effort by the Oklahoma offensive line on both drives, and then capped off with a terrific catch by Kenny Stills, the true freshman, on a play where I thought Texas actually had pretty good coverage. Corner of the end zone, Stills makes the catch. Oklahoma up 14-0. Texas's offense, other than one play in that first half where DJ Monroe broke free on a 60-yard run, couldn't do anything at all against Oklahoma's defense. And for Oklahoma, yes, they gave up some big plays, but it was a better effort this week. And Tom Wort, who I absolutely butchered from his middle linebacker position because I thought he was out of position so many times against the Bearcats last week, came back with a better effort this time around. So Tom Wort, terrific job. And if I'm going to give criticism to him, I have to give him praise. So Tom Wort, you battled back and you did a great job. Other freshmen that stepped up for Oklahoma, Tony Jefferson from his defensive back position. The guy just keeps getting better and better. As I mentioned, Kenny Stills, he came through as well for Oklahoma. But to me, the star of this game was number 7, DeMarco Murray, who started strong and ended strong for Oklahoma. The second half, with the game still in doubt, Oklahoma up 21-10. Murray makes a critical play in which you saw it at the beginning, keeps incredible balance. In fact, the broadcasters, were doubting that was going to be a touchdown for ABC because they thought maybe he stepped out of bounds. No, he stayed in bounds and came up with the score. So Oklahoma, when they needed that touchdown, they got it. And of course, for the second straight week, Oklahoma is aided by a muffed punt. And I know that Aaron Williams of Texas, I don't know how many nightmares he's going to have about that play. If you missed it, Oklahoma clean to an 8-point lead, but they have to punt with under 2 minutes to go. It looks like Williams is going to field the ball cleanly near midfield, but he muffs it. Oklahoma recovers. Texas only had one timeout at that point in the game. Game, set, match to the Sooners. So Oklahoma, you give them credit for the strong start, and their offense in the second half sputtered a bit, and give credit to Will Muschamp and the Texas defense for making adjustments and putting Oklahoma in third and long positions where you know Oklahoma's going to throw. It was easy for Texas to defend at that point, and Oklahoma's ground attack in the second half was not sharp at all. And if Oklahoma is going to be a national championship contender, the ground game must get better. It is that simple. The ground game must get better. In the second half, it was fairly non-existent for the Sooners. I bashed Texas last year after the OU win because I said you have to get a running game, and they really could have used one against Alabama in the national title game but didn't have one. Oklahoma, you know, I have to be fair, they need to get a running game as well. In the first half was productive, in the second half not so much. Part of that was on Texas making adjustments, but also Oklahoma didn't block near as well in that second half and was more predictable in that second half from an offensive perspective. Texas, from their perspective, they'll tell you three things in this game that they're going to be thinking about, in which if they could have adjusted this, they should have won. Number one, naturally the bad start, which we talked about, 14-zip, that terrific Texas defense, giving up 2 long touchdown drives, surprising everybody, probably surprising the Oklahoma fans just as much as it did the Texas fans. Number two, happened to settle for field goals in that second half, in which on 2 drives they drive it inside the Sooner 10-yard line, and they have to settle for field goals. Came back to bite them. But the biggest stat in this game for Texas, which might as well have been like turnovers at times, penalties. Did Oklahoma luck out in the fourth quarter? I'm not just going to say that. I'm going to say that, yes, that's probably one of the biggest reasons why Oklahoma won this game, was because Texas in that fourth quarter beat themselves. Jackson Jeffcoat, a terrific defensive lineman, true freshman for the Longhorns. He's going to be a great one for Texas, but making a costly personal foul penalty on a third down play where Oklahoma on fourth would have had to punt the ball, might as well have been a turnover, because that personal foul kept that Oklahoma drive going, and you saw the DeMarco Murray touchdown. Jeffcoat doesn't make that penalty, Oklahoma's punting, and that Murray touchdown never occurs, and who knows how the game ends at that point. And then Texas, earlier in that half, looks like they got Landry Jones sacked, fumble, Texas recovers, but wait, Texas is lined up off sides. So Texas, you like to give credit to Oklahoma for the win, but Texas will tell you they should have won the game, but those penalties really costed them. You can't win a game with that many penalties and that many penalty yards. Let's go ahead and highlight the 4 keys to the game that I brought up on the weekly matchup show. Number 1, protect Landry Jones. We're not going to do thumbs up or thumbs down anymore. We're going by report card grades. I'm going to go C+ in this situation. Oklahoma did give up 3 sacks, but the start that Oklahoma got off to in this game, Jones had the time he needed, and that was essential. So Oklahoma did give up some sacks, but it wasn't exactly a sack party for Texas. So I'll go C+ in that situation. Number 2, Landry makes smart decisions. B+. Didn't throw any interceptions in this game. I don't give him an A because of that goofy play he made with under 2 minutes to go, in which he dropped the ball inside the 10-yard line, and Texas has a golden opportunity to pick the ball up, but Landry, at least while he was laying down, deflected the ball to where it would go out of bounds, thus preventing Texas from picking it up and running it in to make it 28-26 and remain 28-20. For the most part, Landry made smart decisions against the best secondary in the country. Number 3, Oklahoma defense, step it up. I'm going to go B- because in the first half, other than that DJ Monroe run, they were on their game today. Texas, by the way, helped a little bit because they really didn't throw the ball down the field. They threw conservative passes, did Garrett Gilbert. They really didn't take a lot of chances. And again, I praise Jefferson and praise Tom Wort for their play, and also Jeremy Beal as well. And I know other Sooner defensive players stepped it up too, but those were a few players I wanted to mention right off the bat. So I go B- in that situation. Texas did have a successful fourth quarter moving the ball, but other than that, it was rough going for them. And then number 4, the turnover war, I will go B. Oklahoma has only committed 4 turnovers in their first 5 games this season. That's excellent. Texas had 2 turnovers in the game, the Hail Mary before halftime that went awry, and then the last time they touched the ball in the second half, the muffed punt by Aaron Williams, in which Oklahoma recovered and thus was able to run out the remaining minute and change on the clock. So Oklahoma 5-0. They don't play next week. Bye week comes at a terrific time because I'm sure they're physically worn out. You would be too if you just played Texas. And you get Iowa State. Naturally, the running game's got to get better, but you get the win thanks to a good start and also the Texas penalties, but also credit Oklahoma for not turning the ball over and limiting their penalties. I think Oklahoma only had 5 penalties in the contest. For Texas, we're going to see now how they respond. And traditionally, after they've lost to Oklahoma, which they did a lot in the early 2000s, Texas has always responded well the week after and won. And they've won consistently. But this is their second loss in a row after they lost to UCLA the week prior to OU. And you got to play at Nebraska, but you do get a week off to prepare for the Huskers. The game's going to be in Lincoln, and no question, Texas is going to be a noticeable underdog. We'll see if Texas, by the way, can remain ranked in the top 25. If not, this will be the first time in, I think, 162 weeks that the Longhorns will not be ranked in the AP top 25, the longest current streak in the country. And it's going to be close when the polls come out on Sunday if they remain a top 25 squad. Before I wrap it up, I do want to commend one person who does videos all the time. He does them for Texas. His name's Cowboy TD. In a lot of ways, he reminds me of myself. I consider myself knowledgeable about college football and the Sooners. He's fairly knowledgeable about college football as well as the Texas Longhorns. He's fair and impartial when it comes to his reviews, just like I am, and he's very passionate and emotional, good or bad, when it comes to his team, just depending on how they play. Even though he roots for Texas, I do have a lot of respect for him and watch his videos all the time. I just want to say, Cowboy TD, I can feel your pain, okay? Because I felt it last year when Oklahoma was 3-3 after the Oklahoma loss to Texas, and I was wondering how the rest of the year was going to go, just like I'm sure you're wondering. So hang in there, Cowboy TD. There'll be better days for your Longhorns. But for Oklahoma on this day in Dallas, they hold on, get the victory 28-20, and they don't play again until October 16th when Iowa State comes to Norman. So on Showdown Saturday, Oklahoma gets the win in the Red River rivalry. So long, everybody, and, of course, Boomer Sooner. Ah!